Hey everybody, ronarray here, and today we are going to discuss the Lich, one of the new Ascendancies that will be added in the new Path of Exile 2 League, Dawn of the Hunt. In this video I want to focus on Ascendancy breakdown, because Lich looks very complicated, but pretty strong, at least in theory. Showcase some possible interactions and share my ideas about promising builds for Lich as well. Let's go! So, before we will start talking about the Lich, we need to mention one important part: Minion Overflash and Blackened Heart passives. Unfortunately, been placed in the wrong places by GGG. So Minion Overflash is going to the right, replacing Blackened Heart, and Blackened Heart is taking position of Minion Overflash. We already know that that is a mistake, and when the game will be released, they will be in their proper positions. Let's start discussing passives right now, and start with one of the most questionable ones, Crystalline Phylactery. It takes 2 points and give you an opportunity to socket any basic jewel in there. It also gives 100% increased effect of socketed jewels. You can read it in an option that it will increase effect of all socketed jewels, but I really doubt that it's going to work that way. In my opinion, it's just going to increase the jewel effect that will be socketed in the Crystalline Phylactery slot by itself. That way you are paying 2 points and receiving 2 jewels based on that. I don't think it will be nice in the early game, but in the end game with pretty good jewels, it's going to work pretty nice, and I think it will be a nice option for many builds. There's also a drawback of 50% more mana cost if you have no energy shield, and it's not really a big drawback because the whole build is mostly based with energy shield approach. So in the most cases you should have at least a little energy shield. Another important question is how Crystalline Phylactery is going to work with the Adorned. Will Adorned buff the jewels that will go to the Crystalline Phylactery? If it will be magic, if it will be corrupted. Right now I don't really think it's going to interact with Adorned in any way, but if it will, I think the bonuses could be pretty decent, because for the Adorned getting more jewel sockets are very important. And we will see how it's going to work when we will have Lich in the game. Moving forward, we also have another passive that brings in so many questions, and most of them are kinda hard to answer. It's Eternal Life. It gives us your life cannot change while you have energy shield. And right now we don't know how it's going to interact with so many other mechanics. So for example, if you're going to use the skills that just going to cost your life, will you be able to cast that skill with Eternal Life or no? There are different opinions. Some think that you will be unable to cast that skill like at all, some people think that you will be able to cast it for free. Right now it's hard to say which one it will be. Another important question is that how Eternal Life is going to interact with a very small energy shield. Let's imagine that you have only 100 energy shield, and let's imagine like 3k life. You're receiving a huge hit, which is going to kill you. But at the moment when hit is hitting you, you still have energy shield. So your life cannot be changed. Will you completely negate that hit and just survive any kind of one shot? Or it will actually deplete your energy shield and then hit your life? Right now it's very hard to say how that interaction is going to work. But Eternal Life in theory could provide a lot of potential bugs and interactions together with like wanted interactions and unwanted interactions. I think it's going to be a very interesting node to play with and experiment with. I'm absolutely sure there is a chances that we will see like almost immortal builds with that node. Generally you can use it with a very high energy shield and for example stack it with Aziri Disdain, because that way 25% of damage up to 30 even will just go to your life, so it will be completely negated while you have energy shield, together with Soulless Form, the previous node, which gives 10% of damage taken bypasses energy shield. It can give you up to 30, up to even 35% of damage which bypasses energy shield and which is completely negated. It's also making Aziri Disdain even stronger. If nothing of that is going to be changed or nerfed, it's going to be a very strong combination. And another option for Eternal Life is just playing with a very small energy shield, regenerating that constantly, and trying to survive bigger hits from monsters, which could be an option as well, even if it will be a little less convenient. So moving forward, Soulless Form also provides a very important drawback. It gives no inherent mana regeneration and regenerate mana equal to 6% of maximum life per second. So if you're playing Soulless Form together with Eternal Life, you will need to fix your mana, mostly by increasing your maximum life or finding different measures to regenerate that. I think in the proper endgame it will be not a really big issue because there's different ways, such as like unique mana flask, for example, which is fixing mana regeneration significantly in almost all cases. But in the early game, taking Soulless Form too early could cause a lot of problems, especially if you don't have a big life pool and your mana regeneration is going to be low. Moving forward, we have another absolutely amazing node, which is Eldritch Empowerment, and I think it's probably one of the best nodes that Lich can currently provide. It gives non-channeling spells cost additional 3% of maximum energy shield, together with non-channeling spells deal 30% more damage. So, spending energy shield also does not interrupt recharge. The very important part here is that non-channeling spells dealing 30% more and not increase damage, so that bonus is multiplicative. It's probably going to provide a huge damage increase up to like 30% in almost all cases for all spell-oriented builds, and you will just need to pay a little energy shield. So let's imagine if your energy shield is pretty low, as I already mentioned for Eternal Life, for example, you have like 100 and you're constantly regenerating it, casting Eldritch Empowerment could be almost free because you're going to spend only 3% out of 100, which is just 3, and you will not even feel it. Also, if you will have 0 energy shield, you can get the bonus basically for free. However, I think having low energy shield makes much more sense than having 0. Also, spending energy shield does not interrupt recharge could be nice in some situations, but I don't think that part is important. Moving forward, we also have Rapture of the Soul. Cursed enemies killed by you or allies in your presence have a 33% chance to explode, dealing quarter of their maximum life as chaos damage. And that skill is just absolutely amazing, since you still can make any curse an aura in the game, so enemies around you will be cursed consistently. Rapture of the Soul is going to improve your clear significantly, and I think it's one of the best nodes for the Lich as well, because you will just need to make sure that you have at least one curse as an aura, and you're constantly going to explode monsters, your clear speed is going to be much higher. Since most of the clear speed builds are probably going to get nerfed in the new patch, I expect Rapture of the Soul to be very popular because it's going to provide huge clear potential in almost all cases. And the only drawback is that you will need to spend Spirit for convenience. You can also curse enemies with just casting the curse, but I think it will be a little not convenient enough and just using an aura would be better. So after Rapture of the Soul, we will have Dominion over Flesh. You can apply an additional curse and your curses can affect hexproof enemies. Your curses can affect hexproof enemies is kinda nice bonus, but I don't really think it's worth 2 points. And an additional curse is not really useful too, because you will need to click too many buttons or you will need to spend too much Spirit, which is not really that easily available. Also, the small passive here, which provides 25% increased area effect of curses, is not really nice as well, so I think Dominion over Flash will not be really popular. And in the second part, we also have Necromantic Conduit. You and allies in your presence have Unholy Might while you're not on low mana, and lose 5% of mana per second. The biggest drawback here is that you're losing 5% of mana per second, but I think Necromantic Conduit is a very strong node for minions, so just that node by itself is going to make minions a very viable option for Lich. Unholy Might currently provides a buff that grants 30% of all damage as extra chaos damage. It could be alright for chaos spells too, but I think mostly it should be there for minions. For chaos spells, I think it also can provide a pretty nice bonus because you can get a wizard on top of it, and it should feel pretty strong. The biggest issue is that we don't have that many viable chaos skills. I really hope that some additional supports out of 100 that GG is going to add are going to buff our chaos skills, because chaos skills are pretty nice theme for me. However, right now there's mostly Hex Blast for Chaos skills, and I think Lich could be a very good option to just play basic Hex Blast that we played like with Infernalist before, for example. I think Hex Blast Lich is going to be a very nice starting build too. So after Necromantic Conduit you have another cool bonus as Blackened Heart. 4% increased magnitude of Unholy Might buffs you grant per 100 maximum mana. I think that could work great for minions again, because for minions you don't really care that much if you're losing mana from Necromantic Conduit, and you will lose 5% of mana per second, which is pretty high. In that case, you will be able to provide a lot of cool bonuses for minions, and even if your mana is going to be low, you're going to be pretty fine because your minions kill and stuff. However, for casters, it could be much harder to maintain, but if you're playing a Chaos caster, it could be an option. I genuinely think that Necromantic Conduit and Blackened Heart are mostly options that will be played for minions or Chaos casters, so it will be a pretty niche option. For other builds, such as for example Lich Spark, which in my opinion is going to be pretty promising, you will just go Eldritch Empowerment, take Eternal Life and probably Crystalline Phylactery, especially if Adorn is going to interact with it up to anyway. Because if you're going to play an Archmage, and generally like a mana stacking option or intelligence stacking option, you will be able to get a lot of bonuses for additional Jewel Socket with Adorn. So that's what we currently can expect out of Lich. I think it's one of the best Minion Ascendancy. It's hard to say if it's actually the best, but it's very promising compared to Infernalist, for example, because we have proper bonus right here with Unholy Might. It's also one of the best Ascendancies currently for any kind of Chaos skills, because you can get various bonuses here, and I think it's going to be a very tanky option for all spellcasters because of Eternal Life interactions. Even if you're going to take a nerfed version of Azir Disdain, I think they're just going to lower the percentages of it, to be honest. So let's call it 10% for example. It's almost 2 times nerf, so it's a pretty decent nerf. Together with Soul's Form, it's still 20% of damage completely negated, and I think it's going to worth it. And even if you're not going to take additional bonuses from like Unholy Might, and you will just take Eldritch Empowerment, Crystalline Phylactery, Eternal Life, and Soulless Form, I still think it will worth it. So currently Lich is looking pretty good, and there's a variety of builds it can be played with. However, I think after patch notes we will be able to guess more, because we will see how heavily some particular uniques will be nerfed, and maybe we will also have information on such things as just like Adorned interaction. And we will be able to just say much more. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you will like playing Lich if you're going to. Tell me in the comments what kind of build you're going for, because I think there's a decent amount of options. And see you next time, ronarray out.